Hey everyone, welcome to the main event. My name is Joe Tillman and you're watching on the Hair Transplant channel on YouTube. Before we get going, please, everyone in the chat room, let me know if you can hear me. It looks like I'm having some issues on my end here. Not sure what's going on. Not sure what's going on. Can you guys hear me out there? Please let me know. Get some comments in the chat room. Let me know if you can hear me. Just waiting. There we go. Okay, sounds good. I'm having some issues on my side. It's kind of weird. Thanks, David. Thanks, Vince. I appreciate it. My system. Oh, maybe I went through an update that I wasn't aware of, but my settings were nowhere to be found. I was scrambling, like all of it's saved. I was scrambling to get the URL and the the codes and everything for the live stream, and now my CPU is overloaded. Not sure what's going on. Anyway, but we'll see how long this lasts. If you're new to the show, new to my channel, don't know who I am, my name is Joe Tillman, and let's see. I need to change video resolution. Sorry, I'm having some strange notifications on my channel here. I need to change the resolution. Yeah, something's happened. Like, anyway, we'll keep pushing forward. Yeah, Joe Tillman. I've been in the industry of hair loss and hair restoration for over 20 years, and man, I got to tell you, what a wild ride it has been, especially lately. Look at previous videos. I'm not going to get into it again, but yeah. So what am I doing here? Well, on Friday, I'm usually not here or at least like this, because I'm usually sharing the screen with my partner in crime, Cobran, Spencer R. Cobran, and he's out of town right now. He's not in LA. He is traveling. I think he might be in Tibet. I think he's trying to find himself. I'm not sure what's going on, but he'll probably be back for next week. But I decided, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity to get back to my peoples with the main event. I haven't done the main event in a month, or was it 3 weeks ago? Yeah, and I'm trying to bring it to you more often. I just got 2 big video projects I'm trying to get out of the way, and it's taken up a lot of my time. So for those of you that have been asking about the main event and when it's going to be more frequent, I do appreciate your patience. So today, I've got no real subject to talk about. I'm going to be firing up the phones here in just a bit so that you guys can call in and ask questions. And the questions can be about hair loss, about hair restoration surgery. If you've had surgery and you aren't happy with it, let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's see what happened, and maybe talk about your options. If you haven't had a hair transplant surgery, but you're considering hair transplant surgery, give me a call. We can see if it makes sense for you. A lot of times when I've had people call the show, either this one or the other show, they've decided not to have surgery, and I'm actually proud of that, because when someone calls into the show, or they contact me through other means, like through DMs on Instagram at Joe Tillman Official, and they wind up not having surgery, I consider that to be a win for everyone involved. Me, because I get to help people. 2, for the patient, because they decided not to do something that they weren't completely sure they wanted to have done to begin with. And 3, the clinic that was going to be performing the surgery. Because that was a potential unhappy patient that they just avoided. And that's part of the overall dynamic of what I do, where I instruct or I work with clinics to put barriers in front of patients so that it's more difficult for them to have surgery with that clinic. And my philosophy on this, and it's proven to be true in almost every situation, is that if you, the patient, are not told yes so quickly, and barriers are put in front of you, and what kind of barriers? I'm talking about educational barriers, things that make you stop and question what you're doing, things that make you really think about it when objections and barriers are put in front of you. That makes you a better patient if you decide on the other side of things to actually still go through with surgery. That makes you a better patient for the clinic, and it means that if things don't work out the way that you were expecting, which hopefully are better expectations than had you not been in this situation, then you're not going to be so devastated by the outcome. Now, obviously, if we're talking, blatant donor depletion and, pluggy grafts and just misangled placement, all that's a different story. But in a situation where the density may not be what you had hoped, or maybe there's, just some sort of issues that can be remedied with a second surgery, you're more understanding. You're not out for blood, as it were, if it isn't perfect across the, perfect 10s across the board the very first try. And I say this because more often than you, the viewer, realize, that's the case. It's not perfect across the board with every surgery. Even top clinics, like the best of the best, whoever that may be, the flavor of the week, they don't get it right every day. They have far more patients that are unhappy than you realize. And when I say unhappy, I'm not talking about disasters. I'm talking about patients that maybe their expectations were too high, or their expectations were fine, but there was something that just didn't work out to where it's perfect. That happens a lot. So that's why I encourage people to, well, like in my very first hair transplant class video, my very first line, do not have a hair transplant. That's what all that is about. And when I think about it, I'm actually kind of impressed with myself. I had the foresight to make that the basis of my existence here on YouTube from the very beginning. Because it's proven to be consistent. No, I don't want to update my driver for my printer. God, that's annoying. I really hate Windows, by the way. Windows is a piece of shit. Windows OS. Can't stress that enough. Went to Mac 9 years ago, and I've never looked back. I only run this Windows machine for this broadcast, and it's a pain. It's the only thing that changes on its own. My Mac doesn't change. Settings on my Windows machine change on their own, literally, without me touching it. I won't touch it for a week. I come back, and things change. I can even see, like, my movements kind of stuttered. I hope my audio is okay still. Anyway, line is open. Phone number 1-833-563-4247. I'll even show you what I'm talking about. Like, I can put my overlay with my phone number. It's right here in front of me. It's supposed to be down in the corner. I didn't change this. I didn't do anything to this, and I don't remember how to fix it. So I got to take that off. But I'll put it up here now. 1-833-563-4247. You can call in and ask me questions. If not, I will go away. I do have stuff to do. I'm here for you. And don't give me any fucking pity calls. I'm calling just because you're not. No, I don't want any of that. If you have legitimate questions or concerns about anything, something you want to get off your chest, whatever, give me a call. 1-833-563-4247. What can I talk about? A couple of projects I'm working on. I do have 2 new doctors. I have officially accepted. Their videos are not ready yet. One will be ready maybe this weekend. I was supposed to have it done last week, but it's just, life. And then the other one will be released shortly thereafter. I'm pretty excited about these guys. One's an up-and-comer, and one has been working his ass off for years, low-key, and I think that you'll like his work. I got another guy. I got 3 more guys that are this close. So good times here at Hair Transplant Mentor and on the Hair Transplant channel. Those videos are a lot of work. So I'm really not looking forward to the production of those, but it's got to be done. I got to bring it to you, and it's all for you guys, so you can have what I feel are valid options for your surgeries if you wind up having surgery. So I will go to the chat room here. And yes, my overlay is in front of me. If you're just joining us, my Windows box that runs this system is just a piece of junk. You know what? Maybe I'll upgrade this. Let's see. Questions. Philosophique. I love that name. Joe W. Tillman himself. Yep, that's right. You remember that. That's good. Let's see. Gone hiking. Good stuff. Spencer off to bed. Any questions? Hello, Sugar Ray 29. Thanks for joining us. Brother Bun. Hair Cafe took Huberman to the woodshed. I didn't see that. What's going on with that? Tinus in. Your sound is lower than usual. The image is a bit funny looking. Yeah, that's because it's my computer system. How's the audio now? Is give me a consensus here, guys. Multiple responses. How's the volume on my audio? My voice is kind of scratchy. It's feeling very radio-esque right now. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, On Call. On Call 21. Good to see you in the chat room, buddy. Hope you've been well. I've been seeing your Instagram. You're living the good life now, my friend. Congratulations. Okay, 1-833-563-4247. You guys give me a call. Joade, thank you. Ken Kramer, thank you. Okay, I got a call. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Oh, hi. My name is Victor. I'm calling from Toronto.
Hey, Victor from Toronto. How are you?
I'm good. This is a really quick question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So I got a hair transplant with Dr. Wong a couple months ago.
Okay.
And there was all discourse online about hair transplant surgeons implanting in rows. And I know I saw a Reddit post of yours kind of, addressing it, but I just wanted to, wondering if you could explain or explain why rows are bad, or I'm not sure if they're even bad or not. Implanting in rows.
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that. It seems, it seems like there's a new. I'll answer your question in a second, but just leading up to that, it seems like there's a new wave of online experts that think that they understand everything about hair transplant surgery from photos, and it's kind of annoying. And so when that became an issue on that particular subreddit, which I don't go to anymore because it's just a cesspool of poison. I tried to help. I tried to give my guidance, and it was just really. It was an unpleasant experience, but it's like pushing back a wave at the ocean with your hands. It can't happen. So it's like I just gave up. But yeah, that's one of the issues that they talk about. And if you don't have any understanding of surgery, I completely get it. I understand why people would be critical of that approach. But there are not shortcuts, but there are cheats that you can perform in surgery when it comes to hair transplants that actually can give a better result than if you try to, like in the case of, say, rows on the scalp versus random placement, okay? So ultimately, if you were able to look at the scalp on the not microscopic level, but through microscope or magnification, I'll say, there are actually rows of how hair grows. Okay? It's not perfect lines, but there are rows. But you have to understand that when you're trying to get coverage over a larger area, you have to take these approaches where you get more coverage with less grafts because you're not transplanting as many hairs as you lost. You're not pulling as many hairs from the donor area to place them in the recipient area to replace each hair that's been lost on a 1-to-1 ratio. It's mathematically impossible, more or less, if you want to maintain an appearance of not having had surgery. Like, you can pluck the donor area clean completely and put them all on top, and then it's possible. But we don't want to do that, right? We want to maintain the donor area aesthetically. And so part of this comes down to how grafts are prepared. So when you look at the lateral slit technique, which is what Dr. Wong uses, he's making incisions that are perpendicular to the direction of growth. So the incisions, when you see them, they look like slits. Perpendicular to the direction of that slit is the direction of placement. Okay. Are you still there? Caller?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just on mute.
Okay, you're awfully silent there. I was making sure I wasn't speaking to air.
Yeah.
So if you're able to look back on some of the forums from 15 years ago, I spent a lot of time explaining the layering process of graft placement. And when you're trying to create coverage, and this is with multi-hair grafts, which are used for coverage, there's a specific way of actually preparing the graft. And so if you're looking at a graft after it's been extracted or prepared from a strip, it looks, I won't say circular, but somewhat round. So there is a technique that's being used where the connective tissue, or the fatty tissue basically, is sliced superficially, and that allows that graft to kind of open up and almost like roll out to where the hairs are lined up in a row instead of bunched together in a round piece of tissue. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
Okay. So you can almost look at, I'm one for analogies, so I'm going to try to think of one. If you look at the slit that's being created in the lateral slit technique, it's similar to an envelope. And what you're doing is, the difference is you're sticking your fist into the envelope, or you're sticking your hand with the fingers extended into the envelope. Which one's going to fit better? The one with your fingers extended, right? So that's the same analogy, because those fingers on your hand can represent, say, the grafts. So as they go into, the hairs. So as it goes into that envelope, they're spread out. Now, obviously, you got to flip that around so that the grafts or the hairs are sticking out of the incision, not into it. I'm just using that analogy of the envelope to explain how they fit. But those hairs, when they come out, they're not bunched up in a round grouping anymore. They're almost flattened out to where each hair is almost next to each other, lined up. Okay, so that's what you get with coverage, or that's how you create coverage. And then when you have these rows, that allows for even more coverage, because you're not randomly putting in there, not knowing exactly where they're going to be laying. When you have the rows, you have a pretty good idea. And one row in front of the other is going to be slightly off center from the one behind it, so that there's an overlap. One graft behind will overlap the two in front of it if it's right in the middle of it, if that makes sense. Where two grafts side by side, there's going to be a small gap, but the one behind it in the previous row can kind of lay over that area that those two are not in front of it, aren't covering themselves. You follow?
Yep.
Okay. So that's basically how that works. So when you see these rows, that is designed to give you coverage. And the one thing I think I asked this in that subreddit, these people that are saying it's terrible to do that, if they could show me an example of a result that had healed and grown out where it actually looked like rows were planted. And no one did. No one could.
Right. Yeah.
And
they never do.
So. Well, exactly. And so the problem with that is, let me get this overlay off of me. The problem when you read things like this, especially if you just had a surgery, it freaks you the hell out. You're like, what the hell did I just do? What are these guys saying? Are they right? And that's one of the problems with, look, I completely respect and think that people should be talking about these things. But when you have, especially in subreddits, there's always two or three guys that kind of rise to the top as far as being recognized as the gurus of that subreddit. Sorry, I'm trying to get in my system here. And turns out their opinions are considered gold. And when they say something that affects you, that's negative, then you're like, what the fuck did I just do? This guy is saying I made a mistake, or the doctor screwed me up. When in reality, the guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So I know some of the key players in that subreddit that you're talking about, and they have that opinion, and they really have no clue what they're talking about. So if you have those rows, don't worry about it. You're fine.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate your knowledge and expertise. So,
well, thanks for calling. I appreciate that. Call back anytime.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
1-833-563-4247. That was an interesting call. And apologies to the callers trying to get through. You can call back now. The line is open. 1-833-563-4247. I'll throw that back up on the screen again. There we go. You can see that again. It's funny. That was never an issue up until recently. Like over 20 years, I've not had anyone really dig down onto that issue as being a problem until a few of these experts on Reddit made it an issue. So thought that was interesting. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Joe.
Hey, who's this?
Hey, it's Trey from Vancouver.
Hey, Trey. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Can't complain, man. What's going on?
Good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yeah.
I just wanted to give a quick call and get your thoughts. I'm sure you've covered this ad nauseum probably, but on kind of the scars left in the donor area after FUE. And the reason I'm asking is because I'm sure I'm like a lot of other people. Obviously, FUE is very attractive because you don't have that kind of linear scar.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you hear obviously a lot about scarless, which we all know is not a real thing. But how much of a consideration should people give to scars left in the donor area from FUE? Like for example, in my case, if I got it done, I already have a shaved head. But if I was ever to want to get that done, and let's say for whatever reason I didn't take to it and I had to shave again, how noticeable are those? And is it a case of you can't go down to kind of like completely clean bald, after that?
That's a
great.
I
just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay. So to answer the first question, how would one approach this if they are considering FUE? I think that you should approach it with the mindset that you will not be able to shave your head anymore.
Okay.
So in other words, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst, because no one should tell their patient that you can shave down to X level, like any sort of, not even say, they don't have to say guaranteed, but the implication that it's a sure thing, because no one knows what your physiology is like as far as how you heal. Now, they can ask you some qualifying questions like, do you normally scar from cuts? How do you heal normally when you bruise or some sort of laceration? And that can help to determine if there's a likelihood of worse rather than good scarring or better scarring. And but I don't think that anyone should tell a patient that, and no patient should expect that it'll be invisible, I'll say. Now, with that said, there are situations, it does depend on the punch. I think that trumpet punches are. This is actually kind of a touchy subject, because some doctors, I can see it now. I'm going to get some text messages or even calls. I don't use that punch, and you can't find scars. And it's like I get it. Like, I actually got one doctor called me out over some things I said about him. And we had a discussion, and he just admitted that I was right, which was great. I won't say who it was. I don't want to embarrass the guy, but I do appreciate him. But I think that
is he in Georgia by any chance?
No. Oh, it ain't that cold in hell. It ain't that cold in hell. But I think punch does influence that because the way that punctate wound is created does have an influence on it. For instance, in my case, a trumpet punch was used on my last FUE. Granted, it was 700 or 800 grafts, not a lot of grafts, but I also don't have the best donor area anymore. And on short, when I've had a short haircut down to a 1 guard, you can't tell. You absolutely cannot tell. There is visibly no sign that I ever had an FUE surgery. Consequently, there's very little signs I had strip surgery as well. The worst part about strip surgery, to me, is not the scar. It's I've had so many strip surgeries that the direction of hair growth above and below the scar line is completely divergent.
Different.
Yeah, it's different. You can see, I've not done anything to it today. Sometimes I'll actually kind of influence. I'll get like a little bit of spray on there, and I'll kind of work it a little bit. But you can see this line, and that's actually the divergence of direction, not from the scar line. Yeah. But that's only because I've had like 3 inches of scalp taken out. Like it's, I've had a lot of skin taken out. And if you have 1 or 2, it's not going to be an issue. 1 or 2 good strips, this isn't going to happen. So I am an outlier in that respect. But with FUE, if it's done right, it can be, you can have a 1 guard and it won't be visible.
But you're still going to need stubble, right, to kind of cover up. Like if you go down to a complete like razor shave, it's probably most of the cases.
If you're a pasty white guy like me, yeah, you can go down. You can actually shave down maybe to a 0 guard, maybe even a straight blade. But the problem is once you start going outside like that, then the pigment starts to kick in, and scar tissue does not have pigment, and then that's when it might. In full disclosure, I've never seen anyone that's a pasty white guy, suddenly go out for weeks on end outdoors and then get all this melanin built up in his skin, and then the white dots from an FUE become revealed. I've never seen that.
Yeah,
but logically it can happen. Like that's just, scar tissue does not have melanin, full stop. So the wounds or the scars would have to be really small for them not to stand out in a scenario like that. But as long, if you move to Norway and shave down to the skin, should never be an issue.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I think you see a lot of this stuff, and it's like, hey, if it doesn't work out, I'll shave it all off, right? And I'm like, that just seems a bit too easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like like you hear the scarlet stuff, and it's like, well, no harm, no foul. If I don't take to it, or if it thins out over time, I'll just shave it off again. And
Yeah.
it's like, is that? I don't know. I don't know. It seems very risky to me. But hey, maybe that's the case, you know. But luckily, in my case, I'm actually glad to hear that, because I am very pasty and I have no melanin in my skin whatsoever. So maybe in my case, that actually could turn out that way. But yeah, again, it's one of those things you hear about, and I'm like, I don't know if I buy that, you know?
Yeah. No, fair enough. And to add to what you're saying, it's all risky. Like, it's all risky.
Of course.
You know, the only thing that's not risky is not having surgery. That's the only guarantee you have of zero risk, is just not having surgery.
Yeah.
Never forget that. Okay. So believe no one, trust no one, and only your instincts based on your education, which starts right here. Bam, that was good.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Just out of nowhere. Just made it up as I went. Anyway. So
I mean, I recently, I think what got me thinking about it was I recently saw a picture of there's a former Manchester United footballer, Wayne Rooney, and he I mean, I'm assuming he would have paid a significant amount to get his transplant. I don't know if he's on medication. I didn't look into it that deeply. But I mean, when he first got it done, it looked great. You know, it's like, it's everything you'd want from a hair transplant. I assume he got FUE done. And I mean, I look now and like, really, he's back to, his only option is to shave it off, really. It's gotten so thin and so wiry.
Well, yeah, I agree. But I gotta, like, let me just address that, because I do know a bit about his case. He did have FUE.
Okay.
He was not on finasteride because at the time, I don't know what it's like now, but at the time, the Football League did not allow the use of finasteride because it can hide doping situations.
Oh.
It can like if someone's doping, then it can mask that in tests. So it was actually
right
in the Olympics. That was also the same issue. I actually dealt with I've dealt with some Olympic athletes, and they can't take finasteride, or at least they couldn't at the time, due to that masking effect for doping. So poor Wayne Rooney. Yeah, I feel bad for him, and I feel bad for the clinic, which is the Harley Street Hairline Clinic, which is a good clinic in London. They've got, I think, 3 different doctors. I know one of them, Dr. Ness. He's a good guy, and surprisingly adept at his craft, being as young as he is. I think he's still in his 30s. Young guy, really good at what he does. I haven't done a full review or anything like that, but I met him a year and a half ago in Istanbul, and I spent a lot of time. We hung out quite a bit, and you know, this isn't an endorsement or anything, so people don't say, "Oh, he says he spent some time with him, so he suddenly got this great." It's like, fuck, I can't win. And I'm not saying he did the surgery. Actually, he did not do Rooney's surgery, because I don't even think he was with the clinic at that time. It was years ago. But the work was actually really good. And
that's what I thought too. I mean, it looked great. And when it was first done, it was one of those cases where you're like, this is amazing how far hair transplant technology has come along, where I mean, he had next to nothing, you know, and like, it looked incredible, but like, just within the space of probably 5 years, it's really thinned out, and just didn't stick for him, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it didn't stick because, he didn't have a lot of hair transplanted. He was not on finasteride, so he had a lot of additional loss. There's some pictures out there where he had to resort to concealers, which didn't work so well for him. And he may have had a second surgery. I don't know. I can't confirm that. And I don't remember if it was even revealed or even talked about. But I think that he's one of the sad. Well, there's 2 things about Rooney's case. Number one, he's certainly brought hair restoration to the forefront of consideration, and people were talking about it a hell of a lot more because of that guy. And especially in the UK. And you got to understand, in the UK, before Rooney came along, oh, no. You didn't talk about hair restoration. If you were a guy losing your hair, oh, hell no. You did not talk about hair transplant surgery. Because even if you talked about it, it meant that you were considering it. And fuck me, you don't want anyone thinking that you're considering having a hair transplant, because that is not an appropriate thing to discuss at all.
Yeah.
And like, I remember, like, I've been to London like 10 times and, you know, doing consultations, and love London. It's one of my favorite cities. But I was always surprised at just how, I'll say, shockingly averse to, you know, the private or maintaining or not revealing, compromising property. God, I can't think. Compromising their privacy. Just talking about hair transplant surgery, like coming into a consultation, coming into the office, it's like they were wearing trench coats and you know, hats. Like it was the weirdest thing I ever saw. And but
which is ironic, because I would say UK probably has to have one of the highest rates of hair transplants. Like you see the Turkish hair transplant everywhere. You know, like
it's getting there.
That hairline.
Yeah, it's getting there, but. You know, to finish my point, Rooney came along, and suddenly everyone was talking about hair transplants. It was in the press. You know, due in no small part to a friend of the show, Spencer Stevenson, Specs. He talked about him, or he was asked about him a lot in UK media. That dude is everywhere in the UK media, by the way. Like, he is like always being contacted for comments or full on interviews. It's crazy. But he talked about it quite a bit, and that kind of opened the floodgates, really, as far as I'm concerned, about the hair loss discussion subject in the UK. And since then, to your point about Turkey and all that, the UK itself has undergone a massive transformation when it comes to the hair transplant industry. I'll go ahead and tell you that when I was first in the industry, and for the first probably 10 years, the UK was a terrible place to get a hair transplant, because strip was mainly still it was the only option up until they were kind of late bloomers when it came to FUE, but it was terrible, like terrible. I did not see any good hair transplants coming out of the UK back then, and Dr. F, please don't call me. We've discussed this before. You don't like my opinion, too bad. That's what it is. And then there were some clinics that started to kind of, you know, get good at hair transplant surgery. You got Dr. Ball, who eventually became, you know, I work with him, full disclosure. He pays me every month, whatever, it's out of the way. But there's also, what's his name? Well, the Harley Street Hairline Clinic, I think they do great work, very natural. There's Dr. Manny Matal, who's, I think he does good work. He's also, I'll go ahead and say he's now been accepted as a hair transplant mentor member. Video has not come out yet, but he is on my website. So full disclosure there. But there's another one, Dr. Ted Milne in Cardiff, Wales. He's really good. Dr. I think it's Bolsonaros or Bolsaros or something like that. He's in Scotland. He looks like he's really good. So it's really turned around. But the problem with the UK is we have a flood of terrible clinics that make the old work or the bad work from 15 years ago look like a cakewalk.
Yeah.
It makes Turkey look normal. The bad results coming out of Turkey.
Yeah, because
it's terrible in the UK. There are some, like, look at Kyle Christie, the guy from MTV's The Challenge and Only Way is Essex, like those shows that he's done.
Yeah, you had him on the show.
Yeah, I've had him on the show. That's some of the, like, when I first saw that result, when I was making that video, 4 or 8 years ago, I think, or 7 years ago, I was shocked that that was done in the 20th century. It looked like something out of 1983.
Yeah, completely. It was doll hair.
And the problem with that doctor, she doubled down on that result, claiming it was good. She still has him on her website. Poor guy. And Kyle's still getting messages from people saying that they went and had a hair transplant because his photo was on their website. Imagine how bad he feels about that. Like
that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, he feels
that level
terrible.
of desperation like that. Yeah, that's
so. Anyway,
how she got a single client after him is completely beyond me.
Well,
there's no way you can look at that and think that's a good job.
It shows the power of celebrity, and it also shows the lack of awareness when it comes to, well, even not even that. It just reiterates the fact that guys that are losing their hair are desperate, and as long as they have more hair, that's all that matters to them until they get it.
Yeah.
And then they realize after the fact.
A bad job.
Kyle even, you know, like Kyle said on the show, I knew that it was bad, but but then when I saw your video, it confirmed everything I feared about my result. That's why, like, if you probably never watched this, but people in the UK where Kyle was on MTV, like multiple shows, and then like I said, that reality show, The Only Way is Essex, I think. Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, that's the show. Yeah.
But when he went to MTV's The Challenge, he was on it for multiple like 12 seasons, something like a long run. For the longest time, he had a bandana over his forehead, like what's his name from? What's that 80s hair band? The guy's name is Bret Michaels. Bret Michaels.
Oh yeah.
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 He was wearing his a bandana on his head like Bret Michaels because of his hair transplant. That's the only reason why. And it became his signature on the show. Like he was known for wearing his headband. So it kind of, I guess, it worked for him in that regard. But it's not something sustainable, right? You can't just keep doing that. And he didn't.
Yeah.
Like, we got him fixed up a little bit. He's going to get some more work done. But the big hump of preventing it from looking natural was achieved. We got over that. It still needs some refining, but one surgery really, Poison. Thanks, Broadabon 60. Poison was the name of the band. Gosh, I never liked them. And I was a big hair band dude, but I didn't like Poison. So he's past that now, and now it's just some refining. But that was a great representation of hair restoration in the UK today for a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, so. you see it a lot, and I've seen a lot of those celebrity influencers that, again, I mean, they've clearly all gone to the same place, or, they've got that hairline. And like at that point, when you're wearing a bandana, how that's better than either wearing a system or, like, if you have to cover up the job you've got done to correct your balding, how that's better than a hair system or just shaving your head, and like even a prime example is in Wayne Rooney's case. He already won in a lot of ways because the public already knew him with a shaved head. Yeah. And then he went and got the hair transplant, which again was a good job, but it just goes to show you, it doesn't matter the money you have, it doesn't matter how good of the doctor you go to, it's always a risk,
Yeah. 100%.
So
100%. By the way, people in the chat room, have you hit like yet on this video? I don't see the numbers representing that all of you have. Help a guy out, man. Anyway, all right, Trey, what else is going on?
That's everything. Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on the FUE scars. Yeah. So I really appreciate that, and thanks again for having this.
All right, well, thanks for calling. Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The number is 1-833-563-4247. I'll put this back up on the screen. Oh, we got another call. Okay. Hey, you're on the air. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Joe, do you hear me?
I do hear you. Who's this? What's your name?
I'm David from Europe.
Hello.
We have talked a few months before.
Hello, David. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. It's almost 2 a.m. in the morning at my place.
Wow, you're really far. You're far over in Europe. Where are you? What country?
Lithuania.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right, Lithuania. Okay, yeah. You're pretty far over there. What can I help you with?
We talked a few months before with you and Spencer Coleman. It was also on Friday night at my place.
Right on.
What I wanted to ask you about, what could be the effective lowest oral minoxidil dose for men?
That's a good question. I don't know. All I know is the doctors are prescribing it in either 5 milligram dosage or 2.5.
Yes.
I think I've talked to some guys that may have had that, as like a 2.5, maybe quartered, like they get the tablet and they cut it up into quarters and take it. But I don't know if that's accurate. I think I remember talking to some people about that, but I really don't know the answer to that question, what the minimum effective dosage is. I think that 2.5 is a fairly low dosage. But the question to you, David, is, are you taking it now? Have you taken it and you had side effects? What's going on? Why are you asking that?
Yes, I am taking. I had side effects, bigger ones, now a little bit lower ones. What's the history? I'm taking it for like 6 months with oral dutasteride, yeah. And my oral minoxidil was from India. And after 5 months of usage, 5 milligrams, I started to feel dizzy. The ends of my fingers, my arms, they were like not getting enough blood supply, I think so, because the hands became more numb, and when I just straighten out my hand, my fingers, I see them like a little bit shaking, Also, I felt some tightness in the chest area. And what I did, just lowered the dose to 2.5 milligrams.
So you were taking 5 milligrams at the time? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went down to 2.5.
After some time, I don't feel any more dizziness. Maybe sometimes a little bit more tired, but I'm maybe just a lazy person also,
There's always that possibility.
And another thing you see, and another thing you see, I feel a little bit more weak in my arms. Like I have to to carry something, someone, anything, and I'm not so really sure if I could do it, with the weight, like in the gym, I don't work out at this time. It's been a few years, almost.
Sorry, David, can you repeat that, please?
Really...
You were cutting out. Can you repeat that last part, please?
Yeah. Just feeling a little bit more tired, a little bit more weaker, and I'm just like self-diagnosing. Maybe I have a little bit lower blood pressure. So a few months before, when I talked with you and Spencer, you recommended me to find a doctor who would be willing to prescribe me Lonatan brand medication, lower dosage. And I think you recommended me to talk.
Sorry, you're cutting out again. Sorry. Last thing you said that we heard was I suggested you find a local doctor that can prescribe Lonatan.
Because there is no Lonatan in Lithuania, I talked with Killian, the hair chemist from Ireland, who works at Marwan Saifi. So we were talking about him, and maybe they could help me to get Lonatan from other Europe country, which has it. So I'm planning to try it, the 2.5 milligram brand name medication, and see how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm feeling not good or something's bad, wrong, then I'm planning to slice it in two parts. So get like 1.25 milligram.
Right.
And if it's not good or something's bad, then I'm thinking about getting it from companion pharmacy from abroad, I think so, like 1 milligram. I think it's the lowest dosage I could find that men use it and have benefit from it, but don't want to quote me on that, okay?
Well, the question becomes.
I wanted to ask you.
Well, hang on. So you don't have Lonitin yet, but you are working with Killian to get this, okay? And it'll be 2.5, and if your side effects continue of reduced strength in your arms, then you will cut that into half, so 1.25. Let me ask you a couple questions. And forgive me if we talked about this before, but it's been a few months. How old are you right now?
30 years old.
You're 30 years old. How often do you work out?
Yeah. How long did that work out?
No, how often?
I have worked out.
How many times a week do you work out? Yeah.
I have been working out, but not right now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You see, my workout history was like on and off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what did I mean? Like with the arms feeling weaker, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I can do much bicep curls, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But just like feeling like a little, when you're sick, yeah, and you don't have a lot of strength, something like that.
So you're feeling a bit fatigued in general, not so much specifically in your arms?
Yeah. More fatigue in general.
Okay.
And what I meant about my arms, just an example. When you sit, put your arms on the chair, yeah, and after some time I stood up, like yesterday.
So, you don't have to answer if anything like that's going. I'm just saying that those can also contribute to that kind of feeling. So it might be a coincidence that you're also taking oral minoxidil, and it's just kind of, it's easy to lay the blame on the medication as opposed to other lifestyle events or life events, I'll say. I'm not saying it's not the minoxidil. It very well could be, but we have to look at the bigger picture as well. So there's that. As far as the issue of you getting minoxidil from India versus anywhere else, how long were you taking minoxidil, 5 milligram, before you started to have these, the tight chest and the issue with your hand and all these things that you're talking about? How long were you taking it before you had those
5
issues?
5 months.
So at 5 months, that's when it started to hit you.
Yeah.
Okay.
One additional thing. It's nothing. Just I felt a bit more tightness in my chest at those 5 months. And before those 5 months, only one time I felt a little bit more dizzy. It's like not very usual for me. And also the fatigue. Yeah, it could be from my personal life, yeah. But nothing has really changed my lifestyle or any events. I think so. And from my nutrition, something. And I'm not super active person, but anything hadn't changed to the better or worse side.
Okay.
So I thought about that maybe medication, because, when you buy online, you're not always gonna get what you buy. And maybe this is the case. This was the case. Maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's
that's
like your source for your medication. If it was the same pharmacy or the same manufacturer that this pharmacy was sending to you, then that pharmacy may have an issue with consistency. If it was not the same manufacturer that the pharmacy was sending you, if they changed it, which happens all the time, then it could have been, I don't want to call it a bad batch, but it could have been from a less than reputable source as opposed to the previous sources that you're getting. I don't know. Like, it could be anything, and it doesn't mean because it's Indian, because there's some fine pharmaceutical manufacturers in India. It's a huge market, so they gotta have some consistency as well. But it could have been a consistency issue, or it could have been a changing of the manufacturer issue. Who knows? But I think that if you're able to get the name brand Lonitin and you're getting it through someone like Killian, I think that's a great step, because once you, and this goes for any medication, doesn't matter what the ailment is that you're treating. If you have the name brand, the original, that's your baseline, and everything else is an imitation. Some are great imitations, and they work just as well. Some are not great imitations, and they're pretty bad. And there's variations in between. So once you start with the Lonitin, then you got your baseline, and your consistency should be pretty stable, should be pretty constant.
Yes.
And then you can feel better about playing with that dosage, going from 5 to 2.5 to 1.25, whatever you're going to do. I think that's a great step that you took. And once you go down that route, you'll have the answers, or most likely you have the answers to your questions. But you're going to ask me another question. So sorry I interrupted you, but I wanted to get those questions out of the way. Go ahead and ask your question, please.
Yeah, I will ask the second question. Going back to the first one, okay? There's a coincidence that you told me before about the consistency, yeah? I just remembered, you see, when I bought that minoxidil, I bought 2 boxes of 100 pieces, 2 boxes with 200, yeah? And near those 4th month, something like that, I ended my first box and started another one. Maybe there was an issue with consistency, maybe just guessing. I thought maybe it would be beneficial to say it.
Yeah.
Another question, what I wanted to ask you about oral dutasteride. I'm now on generic dutasteride. It's a little bit more than 6 months.
Okay.
The shedding hasn't fully stopped, but I also maybe see some new hair sprouting, but I can't really be sure because, you see, I'm on 2 medications at once, yeah? And can be 100% correct. But also what I wanted to ask you, I am planning to change to Avodart, brand name medication. It's maybe in a few months in the future.
Okay.
And my question is, what could be also maybe the lower dose that could be also effective for males? I mean, how many capsules in a week? 2, 3, 4, 6, 7? What do you think, Joe?
Well, that's a good question. The half-life of dutasteride is much longer than finasteride, and a lot of doctors will prescribe it twice a week because they feel that's enough. There's some doctors that will prescribe it daily because they feel that just because the half-life is much longer doesn't mean that a daily dose isn't going to be the path to maximum efficacy. I think that if a patient understands the potential side effects, which are similar to finasteride, if they want to start with taking it daily, because it's a capsule. When you get it from actual when you get actual Avodart, it is a capsule, so you can't cut it, and it's 2.5 mg. You take that daily, and my gut is if you feel like you're fine with it, but you don't want to necessarily take it every day because of that long half-life. Once your system is saturated with it after, say, 4 to 6 weeks, then you could actually consider backing it down to, say, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and even twice a week, I guess, is effective for a lot of people because of that half-life. So you could do a Monday, Thursday every week type of situation. My gut, like for me, I would do, if I were to take Avodart again, it would be no less than 3 days a week. That's just the way I'd take it.
Mm-hmm.
But the minimum, I think, is probably, I mean, I know people out there take one a week because of that half-life issue. Again, I think that's pushing it a little far. I think twice a week is probably the minimum for a strong possible efficacy with intake. Yeah. I haven't thought about that in a long time, actually. So that's why I'm pausing. I'm thinking about my answer. But yeah, I think twice a week is fine.
Joe, I can tell you, okay. I heard from Dr. Sergio Vaniel Galvan from Spain.
Yeah.
He told about the dutasterate that 1 Avodar capsule is like 70% effectiveness of oral finasteride, 1 milligram every day.
I'm sorry.
1 oral dutasteride a week.
1 oral okay, 1 a week. Yeah, is saying it's
1 capsule of oral dutasteride.
Yeah.
Is like 7 tablets of finasteride, 1 milligram every day in a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I could be, don't quote me on this, but I think that his comment about that is after there's saturation in the system. It's not just you take it once a week from the beginning, and it's as effective. It's more of a maintenance situation. I could be wrong. I've not talked to him in a while. He's a good guy. I like him, and he certainly knows his stuff. And he's got a lot of experience with. He's actually the one responsible for the modern for the recent wave of oral minoxidil believers. Him and an article in the New York Times. Those are the two things responsible for the modern wave of minoxidil converts. So,
Joe,
yes.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, would it be any beneficial to take some time off from oral minoxidil or maybe oral dutasteride? What do I mean? Like oral minoxidil, I would take every single day, like from Monday to Saturday, and take a Sunday off. Or maybe take every single day and take 1 week off every 3 months.
I'm not a fan of taking a week.
Does it sound logical?
Not really. I'm not a fan of taking a week off from medications.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. I won't change then that thing. Okay.
Just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, but it's just my opinion.
Yeah, but you have a lot of experience, and that many other people, and yourself also. And a few more questions, and I will leave you. Okay, because it's a long call for you, for me. And another thing, to take the medication in the morning or before going to sleep in the evening. Which would be better?
I believe in. That's a good question. I'm a believer in taking it in the morning simply because for me personally, because I make it part of my routine, like brushing my teeth, right?
Yeah.
You have these routines that you know, as guys, we have these routines we do every morning. When we go to bed, not so much. Although your testosterone levels are supposed to be higher in the evening when you sleep, it would make sense to take it at night. But I believe in the fallacy of man, and that we forget shit at night. It's a lot easier than we do in the morning. You know, the things are ingrained in us, like brushing our teeth and brushing our hair, things like that. I keep my supply in my bathroom next to my toothpaste, and that's what helps me to remember. So.
Okay, and the last question: for how long to get off the dutasteride when trying to conceive?
Well, if that's what you want to do, that's a good question. You know, I'm not a doctor, but I believe that if you want to do something like conceive, and you're on Avodar, I think a minimum 3 months to make sure it's flushed out, because it does have a long half-life, and you want to make sure that, like, for peace of mind, You know, there's no documentation that it causes any sort of problems when trying to conceive. Although, I'm thinking if I should even state this. No, I won't even go there. I would say minimum 3 months. Get off of it 3 months if you want to conceive, and talk to your doctor about it. I would have your levels checked, sperm count and everything, before and after, and go from there. Yeah.
Okay. That was all of my questions.
All right.
Thank you again for everything.
You're very welcome.
I will be sure to press a like on the video live stream. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I also watch every of your live streams, the main event and the ball through.
Well, thank you.
You're doing a great job. A big service to all of us.
Thank you very much, David. I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Get some rest. Go to bed.
Just after the live stream. Thank you.
Excellent.
And
take care,
goodbye.
buddy. Bye-bye. That was a nice call. Thanks, David from Lithuania. Great to hear from him. Phone number is 1-833-563-4247. Line is open. Give me a call if you got questions about hair loss, hair restoration, or anything that has anything to do with that. It doesn't even, you know what? Anything you want to talk about. I don't give a shit. Give me a call. We'll talk about it. I'm trying to juggle a couple things right now. Real quick here. I did actually misspeak. I said 2.5 mg. It's 0.5 mg. I heard myself say that, but I was speaking so fast I didn't really catch it in time. And just confirming. So anyway, for those people that check up on me and check my facts, that's the correction there. Let's see. Bass Gickers. Hey, Joe, I'm wondering if you have seen the video of Rob English about permanency of hair transplant. If so, what are your opinions about the video and information given? I have not seen the video. Got a call. Hey, you're on the main event. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Anthony from Canada.
Hello,
Third
Anthony
Canadian
from
caller in
Canada.
a row.
Yeah, what's going on, man? What part? Where are you calling from?
From Ontario?
Okay, right on. What's the question?
Yeah. Okay, who is the best hair transplant surgeon in the world? No, I'm kidding. Hang on. Wanted to chat about scalp micropigmentation.
Sorry, what was that?
Wanted to chat scalp micropigmentation.
Sorry, you cut out something about scalp, about SMP. You cut out at the first part of your question.
Yeah, wanted to chat about scalp micropigmentation.
Got it. Sorry, yeah, got it. Go ahead.
So I've seen pictures of patients using SM peel to conceal scarring in the donor area, whether someone went FUT or FUE. Now, it seems that leveraging SMP would drastically improve the look of an over-harvested donor area.
Yes.
Or any donor area for that matter. Now, I feel like this looks too good to be true, and I'm sensing some risks and pitfalls with this. What am I missing?
Because you, sir, are a smart man and a student of the Hair Transplant channel. Okay, so
sweet.
Sweet. Go King. Okay, good team. I think that first off, it's a great question. It's right to be skeptical. Okay, so keep in mind that when you're looking at SMP results online, they're almost always by the I can't call them a clinic because they're not clinics. They're almost always by the shop. Usually. And if they're by the patient or by the client, it's usually fresh after, in both cases, it's usually fresh after the treatment. Okay. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but it is incomplete because SMP looks completely different a week after you have it done. The first couple days, it stands out more because it hasn't settled down. The scalp is also inflamed from having thousands of little micro cuts placed into it, and so it's a little bit swollen. It can be red depending on skin pigment, how it stands out. And I'm talking these full head things, full head jobs that we're talking about. But when it comes to scar tissue, that's a huge, huge issue. So what I mean by that is scar tissue is not skin tissue. And SMP and tattoos in general were meant for skin. Completely different modeling to how they're actually made, created. When you look at healthy skin tissue, it's not porous at all. It's just skin. But when you look at scar tissue, it looks different. It's hard to describe it, but I'll say it's porous for one, meaning that when you have SMP into scar tissue, there is a chance, more so than with skin tissue, that the tiny dot that they created will no longer be tiny. It'll spread. It'll bleed out into all directions. And so this is a problem for SMP practitioners. They have to watch themselves. They can't make those dots too close. But the other issue is that, and I've seen this happen right in front of my eyes, it can actually disappear, which could actually be a blessing compared to bleeding out.
Right, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a bad thing except for it being a waste of money and time and pain, because SMP hurts. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It fucking hurts sometimes, depending on where it is.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yes. Even, like, they don't numb you up with shots. At best, they'll put a topical numbing agent, a gel, and that's it. And
gotcha.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, I've had it a few times myself, and it hurt like a son of a bitch. But it's not permanent in some cases, and in some situations you wish it wasn't, because it can bleed out and it can create this confluence of scarring. And not to talk, not even to talk about the potential color change depending on the pigment that they use. It can actually change color. Be it in scar tissue or skin tissue. So it depends on the source. And yeah, back to your initial gut feeling, you're right. You're not seeing the whole story. There are very few SMP practitioners out there that I would trust. One of them was mentioned by OnCall21 in the chat room, Caitlin James. She's in Australia. She's amazing. Super nice lady too. There's Milana Lardy and Milan, Italy, who is the mother of all trichopigmentation, which is more of a short-term result. It's actually designed to disappear after a couple of years. So when you go in to have your touch-up, which you have to do with all SMP anyway, it's just a bit more frequent. But she's really good at what she does. She also trained the other two people I highly recommend, which is Eric at Ahead Inc. in New Jersey, and then Nicole at Shapiro Medical in Minnesota. She had other training as well, but she was trained in the method of trichopigmentation. They're both fantastic at what they do, and honest about what they do as well. They don't sell you a bill of goods. They don't make shit up. They don't tell you what you want to hear just to make you happy and you'll lay down for their procedure and pay them. That's not the way they operate. So, but the rest of them, I can't say the rest of them, but the majority of them out there will tell you what you want to hear. Always question an SMP shop, I don't call them clinics, that says you only need to have touch-ups once every 7 years if they've only been open for 3.
But it seemed that SMP has exploded in popularity in the past 5 to 7 years. I've never seen anyone that's had it for 15 years, so we don't know exactly how, like, what the outcome is going to be like. That's what I'm really, really skeptical about.
Yeah, well, I don't know of anyone now that says that permanent is permanent. They used to, until it wasn't.
Okay.
I think what they'll tell you is it'll last 5 to 7 years, and then you'll need a touch-up to freshen it up. And that makes a lot more sense. But what does that mean? Because see the difference in techniques, like say a traditional SMP and then trichopigmentation, and things could have changed since I used to be involved in that industry. Things could have changed, but regular SMP injects the pigment to a deeper level, 3 to 4 millimeters, whereas with trichopigmentation, it's I forgot the depth. It's like maybe 1 millimeter or something, and that's part of the reason why it's more of a short-term result. But the difference is with SMP, it is more of a permanency, but it will bleed out a bit. It will spread, and there is a higher probability of color change. So when you go back in and you touch it up, what are you doing? You're just adding more fuel to the fire, so to speak, to where that's going to bleed out even more. Are you going back into the same dot that was placed before and making that look fresher? Well, that's just more ink to bleed out. With trichopigmentation, right. it does tend to disappear. I actually have seen how it disappears completely on clients, and then you just go back in and you can redo it completely, or you can get in there before it disappears and go in between those dots so that when the old dots do disappear, the new dots have already taken over, right? So you kind of alternate, I guess, every 2 or 3 years, as opposed to 5 to 7 years for this permanent stuff that you don't know what it's going to do.
Now, what if an FUE patient had SMP to conceal all the FUE scars, and then they went in for a repeat hair transplant? Would the surgeon be like, nope, I can't work with this. I need kind of more of a clean canvas, or could they still work with that?
That's a great question. I can tell you one thing it does is it distorts what the it distorts the assessment for how many grafts can be harvested. Because unless the doctor is, well, I'll put you like this: if you're looking at the scalp and you got all these dots filled in with a dark dot, then that's effectively filling a space where normally it would be empty. And so when a doctor is assessing the donor area, usually they'll eyeball it first, but they can also touch it, and they can feel the density. They can feel how full or thin it is. Combined with their visual observation, those dots can be deceptive. Now, a lot of clinics are using magnification now to also further diagnose the donor area and the suitability for surgery. And if they can see that it's a dot, then there's going to be so many of them that it may make the doctor say, I don't want to have to figure out what's what as I'm doing this surgery. I want to be able to see a hair and be able to grab it. And it makes it more difficult to assess what the donor will look like after surgery when X number of grafts have been extracted, when you got all these dots around there as well. So it can affect the assessment. Will a doctor say no? Maybe. But I don't know. Like, I can't speak for every doctor out there, but I can tell you that absolutely SMP in the donor area can and does affect the ability to properly assess the donor. Doesn't make it impossible.
Gotcha.
But it does. It certainly makes it more difficult, for sure.
Okay.
I'm living proof of that.
Another question.
Dr. Wong actually eyeballed my donor before my last surgery, my FUE, and his estimate was different than after he shaved. And he said, "You know what? You still have SMP in your donor." That threw me off. So there you go.
So obviously, it would be a lot easier for a surgeon to work with a patient that has SMP for a post FUT. Then they would have no concerns with that.
Post FUT, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, got another way off topic question about minoxidil.
Okay.
So my understanding is that it was discovered by accident because it was an oral blood pressure medication, correct? Back in like the 70s or 80s, whatever, correct?
You mean with regards to its effect on hair growth?
Right.
Yes. Yes. That's
it was originally deviated through as an oral medication, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Came out as an oral medication, and the side effect that they discovered was hair growth, and hence we had Rogaine.
So why didn't they just go straight to FDA approval, straight to an oral anti-hair loss medication? or hair growth medication, I should say?
Because FDA approval takes a long time, especially back then. And, you know, there are a lot of, I will say there are a lot of medications and treatments out there where the side effects can lead to hair regrowth of some kind. Sometimes unwanted hair growth. But it's usually like just a little bit here and there. In order to take that into a product that's actually worth investing in is a big stretch. It really is. And it has to be something that shows safety in different dosages after a certain dosage is discovered to be the optimal dosage. And then it also has to be determined if there is enough of a change, enough of a, like the side effect has to be, we'll say severe enough, but it has to be aggressive enough to make it obvious that this actually grows hair, right? So with minoxidil, with Lonitin at the time, and I'm just speculating here, but there was enough of a side effect. There were enough patients complaining of the side effect or talking about the side effect, and there was enough of the side effect for people to take notice and say, okay, we need to investigate this. We might have something here. So that in and of itself takes a while. Like they try to figure out what is it in this medication. Is there something else in this medication that is causing this, or is it the main ingredient? In this case, minoxidil. They don't know, so they have to isolate what exactly is happening here, and then try to formulate something that they can apply orally, topically, however they decide to do it, and then go through the FDA approval process, and then invest millions and millions of dollars to do so. So it takes time. That's why.
Because it's interesting how they discovered ProScar in the same manner of they discovered that it was an anti-hair loss medication,
yep.
And then they took it to FDA approval to have the 1 milligram certified as an anti-hair loss medication, but oral minoxidil didn't go that route and went over to a topical.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get that. I don't know the reason why that is. That's a good question. Or a good observation. I don't know why minoxidil came out as a topical. Maybe because it was considered to be less of a serious medication at the time. Like I don't know. Like maybe they thought at the time, well, if we're making a pill that's designed for blood pressure, maybe that'll scare some people off, but we got something that we can just apply topically. And there might have actually been some sort of medical reason as well because of the side effects of taking it orally that we know about. Back in the day, they were talking about, the dosages they were pushing out were far higher for oral minoxidil than what they prescribe for hair loss. It's 2.5 to 5 milligrams for hair loss, 30, 40 milligrams for blood pressure and higher. So maybe that had something to do with the decision to make it topical. I don't know. I'm completely guessing here, just pure speculation. But it could be one of those things. It could be something else. I don't know. But talking about the dosage changes, ProScar is another classic example. It's a 5 milligram pill, whereas Propecia is 1. That's what they determined would be the ideal dosage for hair loss. So there you go. Like it takes time, and they do want to find out what it is that they think is actually causing this, and then figure out what they feel is the ideal dosage. So it takes time. That's the main thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right.
And do you find that there's anyone out there that takes better to topical Rogaine versus generic, or are they formulated nearly identical?
Topical versus generic?
Topical Rogaine name brand versus generic minoxidil.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Do you find that people take to one more than the other, or do they have the exact same consistency, exact same side effects?
No.
From your experience in the industry.
Well, No, they don't have the exact same XYZ because no two people respond to the same medication the same way either. There's always that variable, even if you have the same the same default medication. If you use just one source, the variable then becomes who's taking it, because everyone's different. Two different people will have a different reaction to the same medication. So when you throw in the variable of generics and all the variables that entails, then no, there isn't the same consistency on that level as opposed to we'll say a name brand, and everything's a guessing game. They can be just as good, we think, but it's not going to be the exact same mixture of ingredients as far as the ratios and the raw, where the raw ingredients are sourced as the original. They may have some of the same raw ingredients. They may have some of the same ratios, but it's never the same, as far as I know. That's why I always talk about. That's why I'm a brand whore. Name only, name brand only. That's the baseline that everything else is trying to copy.
How much is Rogaine paying you? No, I'm kidding.
Not enough. No, just kidding.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You got any more questions?
Cool. Well, that's all my questions for tonight. No,
all right.
I don't want to take up any more of your time.
I appreciate the call, man. Thanks for calling.
And thank you for talking me out of a hair transplant.
It's what I do. Take care, buddy.
Keep it up.
Bye-bye. That was a fun call. All right. What time is it now? It's 4:07. Okay. Bottom of the hour, 4:07? No. Shit. I can't see. 4:37. God, boy, this is full and fast. Okay, but line is open. 1-833-563-4247. Throw this up here in front of my face. We got the right here. Circle. Am I doing it right? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's pretty tight. Okay, yeah. 1-833-563-4247. Got a call. Hey, you're on the main event. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Oh.
Hello? You're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
I am?
Yes, you are.
Is this Joe?
Yes, it is. Who's this?
Oh, there must be a delay. There must be a delay in the video because you were talking, but the guy on the screen was also talking.
Yeah, just listen to the phone, not the video.
Okay. I was like, you have a secretary? Hey, Joe, how are you?
Pretty good.
Hi.
What's your name?
Love the show. You're Thomas?
Thomas.
Italy.
From Italy.
A lot for me over the past 2 years.
Right on.
And let's see, I've had a lot of regrowth on medication.
Good for you.
And now, thank you. Now I have a new anxiety, which is accidentally tearing all my regrowth out. And then something Bill Raspin wrote on Reddit really freaked me out, was that you need to be really careful because miniaturized hair comes out, pulls out, really easily.
No, that's not true. And here's why.
Okay.
Miniaturized hair does not mean it's being affected by DHT. Miniaturized hairs does not mean it's on its last legs of life. Okay. When you have miniaturized hairs, you have a mix of hairs that might be affected by DHT, depending on the person.
Yeah.
But they could also be hairs that are coming back in, starting back into their anagen phase of growth. Remember, you have three phases of growth. You got anagen, catagen, and telogen. Anagen is the active state of growth. Catagen is the phase that takes about a week or two, where the follicle actually separates from its blood supply, and then telogen is when that the hair shaft actually falls out. But then anagen, when it starts to come back into anagen, roughly 3-5 months later, it doesn't come.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily come through as like this big, coarse, black, I'm back, I'm growing type of hair. It can come out as a weak hair. And then as it grows longer, the hair shaft diameter gets thicker, and then it becomes the coarse hair that you want to see, or the thicker hair that you want to see. So it doesn't mean it's any weaker that's going to come out anymore. But what Bill's referring to is the pull test. He's talking about the pull test. Where some doctors believe that if you take your thumb and forefinger and you lightly grab not strong enough to pull out a terminal hair, but just to tug on hairs. If you pull any, then those hairs are being weakened. I don't know if I believe that 100%, because those hairs could be in the middle of the catagen phase. You know?
Yeah.
Or they could have already ended the catagen phase, in the telogen phase, but they just haven't actually fallen out yet. Like they're separated. They just haven't done anything yet. So I've never really subscribed to that.
No, I think what you're saying is that if it's miniaturized, I don't know if it's true, but it doesn't have to freak me out, then it's anchored not as well. And then, like, for instance, you have to be careful when you're washing your hair, because you might pull it out forcefully more easily than you would a normal hair.
I don't follow that approach either. That's bullshit. And here's why.
Okay. So do you think...
Listen to me. If you're going to wash your hair lightly because you're afraid of knocking out your hair, what else are you going to do lightly? Are you not going to wear ball caps, or like when you go out in the cold Italian winter, you're not going to wear your beanie or your toque?
Well, yeah, it's miserable life.
Exactly. And it doesn't make it's not going to make so much of a difference. Like if you do knock those out, they're going to fall out anyway. So what's the difference of a week? Because if you can knock out a hair just from washing your hair, it means it's coming out anyway. Full stop.
Okay, that's what you think.
That's what I know. That's just common sense.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, it's common sense. It's common sense on the medical side. It doesn't necessarily need to be common sense on the civilian side, for lack of a better, because you got the questions, and it makes sense to ask the questions. That's what I'm trying to say. But on the medical side, I don't think a lot of this has been thought through. It's just kind of shotgun answers. I would say, if that makes sense.
Okay. So are you telling me, man to man, that if you accidentally pull out an anagen hair, you'll know because it'll hurt?
No. I've pulled out my own hairs that are in anagen. It doesn't hurt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to hurt. Like you can snap off the hair before you actually pull out the follicle.
No, I mean the follicle.
Yeah, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Yeah. I don't think that's an indicator that it's an anagen hair. Don't overthink this. Don't overthink it.
Okay. Take
your medications. It's working for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love hearing that.
Okay.
Don't burden yourself with worry about things that haven't happened. For the love of God, please don't do that. That's nothing. That is something that can raise your cortisol levels and cause more anxiety than is necessary. Enjoy your hair.
Okay.
Enjoy your hair.
Okay, so
nothing you do short of taking sandpaper to your scalp is going to permanently knock out your hairs.
Nothing you do outside of deliberately, like trichotillomania.
I was just going to say trichotillomania. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of that is going to mess up your hair.
Pretty much. Yeah. Or bleach it too much, or things like that. Things that actually do destroy your hair.
Okay.
But washing your hair, don't be afraid to wash your hair. Okay? In fact, it could be argued that if you are vigorously washing your hair and then using a good stiff brush on your hair, that you're actually stimulating growth because it increases blood flow. How's that for a counter argument?
Well, I like it.
Exactly. It goes along with the idea, and I'm not saying I believe this, but it goes along with the idea that if you do scalp massages, it increases blood flow, which it does. I mean, that just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who knows? I'd be more likely to believe that than I would about causing hair loss because you're washing your hair too hard.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even in the worst case scenario, you do pull hair.
Of course.
Odds that it regrows are good.
We pull our hair all the time, whether we intend to or not. When we're sleeping at night and we're laying on a pillow, just changing direction, it can knock some hairs out. Whether you're you're actually going through active male pattern hair loss or not is irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's just a part of it's just a part of life. And whether it has to do with male pattern hair loss or not is irrelevant.
Right.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
And when it doesn't grow back, it's because you've pulled the same hair many times.
No, that's trichotillomania.
Right. No,
yes.
I'm saying if that's the case, which it doesn't grow back, it's because you pulled the same follicle.
No, if it doesn't come back, it means it's on its last legs to begin with, and then it doesn't come back. Or actually, it comes back. It's just not cosmetically worthwhile. Like it doesn't add to the overall aesthetic. You can't see it. It doesn't add to the bulk. It doesn't add to what you have.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
Well,
grazie a tutti.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You got any more questions? Oh, I guess not. Lost the call. Sorry about that. Anyway, good talking to you. Grazie a tutti. Thank you so much for calling from Italy. The line is open. Let me throw the number up here again. Had several calls all at the same time. I appreciate you guys calling. Give me a call back. 1-833-563-4247. You're watching the main event here on the Hair Transplant channel on YouTube. And don't forget to hit like on this broadcast to give me your support. I want to see it. Hey, you're on the air. What is your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Johnny from Memphis, Tennessee.
Did you say John or Jolly?
Johnny.
Johnny. Sorry.
Yeah, Johnny Apple.
I thought I heard Jolly. It's like, boy, that's a new one. I like that. What's going on, Johnny? How can I help you?
Well, I had a question about FUE after FUT.
Okay, good question.
So, with someone with really weak hair characteristics like I do,
mm-hmm. Hang on. What are weak characteristics? Explain.
I have darker hair, pale skin.
Okay.
I think it was a 1.8 hair per graft ratio, just slightly below average, really thin and wispy overall.
Are you Asian?
Sorry, am I what?
Are you Asian?
No.
Really?
No.
Okay, so 1.8. Okay, that's interesting. All right, who told you 1.8? Where'd you get this measurement from?
It was, I inquired after my hair transplant. I emailed the clinic.
Okay. Okay, so it was 1.8 hairs per graft on average.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Was this a strip or an FUE?
Strip.
It was a strip. Do you know if they use microscopes?
Yes.
Which clinic was this?
It was one of your favorites, Joe. It was Dr. Cooley.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay, that makes sense then. All right, I believe that. All right, good stuff. All right, no, it helps to know because some of the answers can tell me whether it's a fairly legitimate number or not, but that makes sense. Okay, so microscope, strip, good doctor. All right, so 1.8 hairs on average per graft. What kind of work was done here? Was this hairline work? Was it coverage for the front, full on Norwood?
Yeah.
What was going on?
It was basically the frontal third. I was, around Norwood 6. The crown is fairly bare.
Okay.
But I plan on having another strip procedure.
Got it.
But in the future, I was, thinking UE.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that, of course, I have very thin hair and I need, some hair to cover the strip scar.
Right.
I was wondering how they would homogenize the donor area properly to cover that strip, given that, my hair is kind of thin and see-through, or I may not just be a candidate after having FUT.
That is a great question. And that's the meat of the issue. Okay, that's good. Okay. So, all right. As a Norwood 6, you opted for strip first, and I think that's fine. I think that's the best route for some guys. It's not a blanket approach, but if you have a second strip, well, we'll say a second surgery. What makes you think you'll need a third to where FUE would be even on the table? Or actually, before you answer that, let me rephrase the question. If you have you have the front of the scalp done in surgery 1, surgery 2 is going to be for the crown and the vertex, I assume. What makes you think that any other surgery would be necessary and it would be FUE?
This is mostly and just like my second question that I'll have for you, it's mostly just hypothetical. I kind of, think about other patients, and I'm a member of forums and things like that, and I look at a lot of patients and they ask for opinions and things like that. I was just thinking about it. People who are in a similar situation to I am, if it did come up. Okay.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I think that if you look at it from the perspective of Norwood 6, 2 surgeries, you'll probably get pretty good coverage in the first one. On the second one, front to back. So if you were to need to go the FUE route because of your what you're talking about, weak donor, and I think if you're talking about strip, then weak donor also constitutes a tight scalp. I don't know your physiology. I don't know what your situation is, but if you switch over to FUE, you're not looking so much for an issue of homogeneous extraction, because usually when you're using homogeneous, you're in this context, you're talking about homogeneous donor compared to the top. So it's homogeneous from the recipient all the way, the Norwood 6 area all the way down to the donor. In your situation, I think it's more appropriate to describe homogeneous extraction to focus only on the donor area. So in other words, we're talking about there's no discernible demarcation where the grafts are taken out. There's not like a box of reduced density in any area, or a rectangle, whatever you want to say, of reduced density in your donor. So that's the concern, as well as the donor scar, if the area becomes thinner, or when the area becomes thinner. Does that kind of cover it?
Yeah, I was basically, kind of imagining, someone with thin hair and them having basically a thicker band of hair to cover that strip scar, and maybe the FUE extractions above and below.
Right.
Like how that would work.
Well, ideally, the better approach for extraction would be below the strip scar if you have a weak donor area, because that way you're not reducing the ability of the hair above the strip scar to cover the strip scar itself. But on top of that, you can also investigate placing grafts into that strip scar so that covering it isn't really an issue. It's not really a need. It can work quite well. And Dr. Cooley's done this before. I've seen it. And that's one thing to consider. So scenario that you go back, you have another strip surgery, assuming everything works fine, and then result comes out fine. At this point, FUE would be just for filling in some sort of gaps, or like modifying it maybe a bit. I could use a little more density in the hairline or whatever. Then FUE would be fine for that. You probably, and I'm saying this from the perspective that you probably wouldn't need a lot more to begin with, because once you cover front and then back, then it's a matter of density. And if you're actually happy with what you have. So you're not looking at 5,000 more grafts that you're going to get with FUE. It might be, a few hundred here and there, maybe 1,000, just to make it better. But the bulk of the transformation has occurred. First surgery, second surgery, done. And then it's just enhancements, basically. So the first thing that you'd want to do, I would think, from my perspective, is go ahead and have, like, if you're done with strip and Dr. Cooley says, doesn't say that you're tapped out, like as far as your laxity goes, or does say that you're tapped out as far as your laxity goes, then you can say, all right, so let's do it.
Second question was, my dad, quickly went from, having, really dark brown hair like me to basically just, platinum white, in his early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people get SMP.
You must have been a shitty kid.
What's that?
You must have been a shitty kid. High stress for your pop.
I'd like to think I was a good kid.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, my question is, a lot of people get SMP for, added, the look of added density.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think a lot of people will have issues with, they get SMP and then their hair goes white and then they lose the advantages of the contrast between their skin and hair, and they're basically, forced to dye their hair black or dark brown and things like that? That's
a great question. I've had that one before. I've never seen it, so I don't know. I would imagine it would look, depending on the density of hair that you have, I would imagine it would look, I'm trying to visualize it now in my head. It wouldn't look pretty. I can't get the image. I can't get the color change out of my head when I'm thinking about this. I'm looking at in my mind's eye, I'm seeing a green head with white hair on top of it. It just it looks terrible.
I was looking at Joe Biden's pictures from his, when he was younger, how bad the transplant looked, and then when he got older, I don't know if he had more procedures done, but it looked so much better because of the contrast. And I was imagining at that point, the SMP would just ruin it. It would look, it would look completely off.
Yeah, I honestly, like, you look at his hair now, like the front of his hair transplant looks far better than it did 15 years ago. I think that recent. I would lay money that he had some refinement done to the front. Maybe he had those plugs thinned out because his hairline's still pretty high. He may have had them thinned out and then maybe some placed in front, or maybe just one or the other. I don't know. I would be hard pressed to believe that he just had singles placed in the front. I think he probably had those plugs thinned out as well, at the very least. And the front of his transplant looks dense enough to where it would probably be okay. But the back looks terrible on him.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the back of his head? It looks terrible.
Yeah,
he looks like a Norwood 17. 0.5.
Yeah,
like it's bad.
He sports the slick back look very well. It covers a lot of it, but you still see the crown. Very clearly.
100%. It works for him. It looks like a normal hairstyle at this point. People talk about how terrible it looks now. I don't think it looks terrible, at least not compared to what it did look like.
You should reach out to him. Maybe you can help him out.
I won't hold my breath on that return phone call. I don't see that happening. But he's. I mean, politics aside, whatever you think of the man, he was either told or thought of it on his own that he needs to get that shit fixed, and he did. To the best that whoever got a hold of him could do. The donor area, you can't do anything. It's like it was far too late for him as far as the donor area. But and that's why I think that there absolutely had to have been some thinning out of those plugs, because he just didn't have the donor area to do anything substantial. But whatever they did, it was good. It was good. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I said 2 questions, but I had one more. It's talking about another president, and it's a procedure that I'd never heard of. It was Donald Trump's possible procedures. It was some kind of like hair flap, like a plastic surgery. I'd never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a very old method, very effective for density, because you're not actually removing the hair; you're literally moving it in its skin, in the tissue, and you're flapping it over into the hairline, and it's a very brutal procedure. It completely distorts the geometry of hair growth, and that's why you see his part line so far over on one side. It's not because it's a comb over; it's because he has no choice. Like the hair, that is his own hair. It's just it's been his hairline was lowered through this method, and all the hair grows back over the top of it. So he can't bring it forward in natural angles. He has to do kind of off to the side, and it kind of helps with the appearance. But it is his hair. It's not a wig like some people say. It's just a flap. And look, it worked. Like it works for him. It's his signature. You know. So what do you say? What do you do? But yeah, it's a Hemingmeyer flap, I think is what it was called. Hemming?
And I'm sure it requires a hospital stay as well. And I'm sure, I just imagined he probably had like nurses at his home and things like that.
That does not require, requires versus what actually happens. Yeah, sure. Probably requires a hospital stay, but it was an outpatient procedure. You're given a lot of medication to deal with the pain, and there are very specific post-operative instructions that you have to follow. But from what I understand, rumor has it, like I can't confirm this at all. I do know, I'm pretty sure I know the doctor that did the work, but everything came to Trump Tower. The doctor, the staff, the equipment, whole 9 yards. He wasn't about to go to a clinic to have it done. He had the clinic come to him. Which is not it's not the only case that, like, it's not an isolated thing. I've heard of this with other big money celebrities.
Expensive. Have you ever had a patient like have you ever met anybody that's had that procedure done?
Yes, I have.
Did it look like a carbon copy of Donald Trump's hair?
No, it looks terrible when I saw it. Well, I mean, but keep in mind, the ones I saw were, they were seeking out, our services for repair, right? So yeah, look, there are good, relatively speaking, results for just about every case out there. Like, I've seen plug work that looked acceptable because of the hairstyle and the way that it was done. And I'm not advocating for plug surgery, so don't send me the DMs. Don't, like, people are watching this. Joe Tillman advocates plug surgery. No, that's not what I'm saying. I will say that I've seen some mini micrografting work that's better than some follicular unit grafting work. From 10 years later, on some patients. Like, it does come down to the doctor when it comes to. Like, a good doctor can make a terrible technique less terrible. That's what I'm trying to say.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your answers.
No worries, Johnny. Thanks for calling. Go Vols.
All right. Thank you.
See you, buddy. Bye-bye. All right, that was a good call. We're at, 5:05. We're having a good show so far. Let's do another phone call. The number is 1-833-563-4247 through the number up here on the screen. You can give me a call. I got the delay in the audio and the video, so you'll be seeing this. But I tell you, there is the call. All right. I think I know who this is. Hey, you're on the main event. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Gypsy from Los Angeles.
Hello, Gypsy from Los Angeles. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I tend to be the last call quite often.
Sometimes you're the only call.
That's true. That is true. Well, the first and the last, but still the last. Anyway.
Right on. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. Wanted to chat up a little bit, and I got to say, regarding that last call, I think that you and Coburn have actually consulted for several presidents, and the reason I say that is because even if you did or did not, you couldn't disclose that. They probably will have you sign an NDA.
I cannot confirm nor deny any of that.
Deny? Right, yeah, exactly. But all good. I actually started on the oral minoxidil, finally.
Congratulations.
And yeah, well, it's only 2 days, 3 days.
Okay.
I lost count already, see?
So not even any time for side effects at this point?
None so far. So I'm starting with cutting the pill in half. So I'm doing 1.25. I'll probably do that. I was thinking a week, but maybe I should stretch it out for like a month and then go to the 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was relatively easy now that my regular provider prescribed it. Proscar, on the other hand, no one has it.
No one has it?
So I guess there's a shortage or something. I have no idea what's going on, but I went...
F's sake.
Yeah.
Really?
So I went to well, it appears that way to me, or they try to give me a hard time. So I went to your regular, CVS and all that stuff. Twice they tried to give me generic. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I've been listening to this one show, and I'm like, hey, can we look at that? Is this generic? They're like, yeah. I'm like, no, my prescription says Proscar. Oh, well, you don't want it? And I'm like, no.
I think they're being lazy. I think they're being lazy. They don't want to order it. And they're trying to move their stock. Right? They're trying to move their stock, their supply.
Yeah. I believe so, because then I talked to one guy and he was like, oh, okay, well, it turns out that, it won't be covered by my insurance. And I'm like, that's fine. I'll pay it out of pocket. That's not a big deal. That was going to be the bonus if it happened. But so he's like, it's like $500, right? I'm like, yeah, I know. And
$500 said, for how? Yeah, like, how much are you getting?
For 90 days.
What?
So 5 milligram 90 for 90 days. So yeah.
Okay.
So 90 day supply is $100. I figured that since I'm going to cut it in fourths, that's a whole year.
Well,
so
yeah.
For me, it's worth it.
Of course. Yeah. So so that $500 turns into what, 125, which is reasonable.
Which is basically what I'm paying Keeps.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
And I get the brand name. So
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But he was nice enough to say, he's like, well, let me see if I can find a coupon to help you out a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I appreciate it. So he found the coupon. He says it's going to be $436. I'm like, I'll take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he put in the order, and then I got a little alert. Your fin is ready to be picked up. I go over there, and I'm like, is it generic? They're like, yes. And I'm like, why? I was just here a week ago.
Yeah.
And we order it. I told them to order it. I'm going to pay it out of pocket and this and this and that. Oh, probably they couldn't fulfill it. And so it reverted back just to like regular finasteride. So you don't want it? I'm like, no, I don't want it. Mm-hmm. So I actually talked to the pharmacist in charge and I explained the whole thing to her. And she was like, you know what? I'll give you a call tomorrow. This is this and that. I'll look into my supplier. And if I can get it, I'll probably know by tomorrow. If not, then it's going to be a little hard. So I never got the call. And I just started looking. And I'm like, well, let me go on Amazon. Let me go on Amazon Pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
And they had it. They had it there.
Okay.
So I had to do a whole I had to do a whole transfer of my prescription, a request, and I get an alert. Your finasteride is ready, or continue your your ordering. Generic.
Jesus.
So I picked up the phone and I called Amazon Pharmacy and I'm like, hey, here's the issue. Yada, 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 yada. I even called my doctor. I'm like, hey, are you sure you put Proscar? He's like, let me check. He's like, yeah, I put Proscar, brand name only. I'm like, okay. So when I talked to Amazon, and I'm like, no, my prescription says Proscar. It says brand name only. So that's what I want. And your system is not allowing me to put that on the cart. I know you guys have it, or at least it's listed. So, I don't know what we can do about it. Put me on hold a couple of times, this, and that. And she's like, yeah, no, I talked to the pharmacist. We're going to change it. There's going to be an update on the system. About 15 minutes later, I got another alert. And now it allowed me to put the Proscar on the cart, and I ordered it, and it said it was going to take maybe a week to get here. I had also called Rite Aid before I went through Amazon, and I'm like, hey, do you guys have this, and can I order it from you? I have another pharmacy, but I can transfer the prescription. And they're like, oh, no, we don't even deal with brand name. They're like, no, we only have generic. If you want generic, you can come and order it. I'm like, no, bye-bye.
Okay. So
yeah, that was my whole adventure. So I'm waiting for the Proscar.
My God, all that, and you still don't have your Proscar.
I don't. I got my. When was the last time I talked to you guys? It was last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
When I got the prescription, and this whole 4 weeks. 2 weeks has been just that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that, but
maybe people can say in the chat room if they're having that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it was kind of interesting and unique, and especially since I'm in LA, which is a big metropolitan city. It's like, well, if I'm experiencing that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I wonder what other people are experiencing.
Anyone watching, if you're having that same issue, you can make a comment down in the comment section after this live stream. You can say something in the chat room. If you're watching this live, be interesting to see what the feedback would be on that. Everything else going okay for you, though? Life is good?
Everything is, life is good. Okay. It's been a little busy lately with business, so that's good.
All right.
But yeah, that's that. That's my update. So I probably should take some decent pictures right now that I just started, and then see the difference.
That's a good idea.
3 months down the line.
Yeah, do that. Mm-hmm. Get your documentation started and move forward as you progress with more photos. All right. So hey, Gypsy, got another call coming in. We're going to take this last one before we wrap up. Good talking to you. Thanks for calling.
Sounds good.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Hey, you're on the main event. What is your name and where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, there you are. What's your name?
Hello. I was actually on the other show about 2 weeks ago. My name was Mr. Constantine, if you don't remember me. I was the one with the issue about grams and milligrams of spironolactone.
Oh, yeah.
And some other weird issues.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
First of all, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
Shout out to the show, and shout out to Spencer. Hope he's doing well in Tibet.
Yeah, he's doing fine. Thanks for asking.
I respect the hell out of what you guys do, these events, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Anyways, after that whole, concern with that doctor, I just quietly refused and simply moved on to secure a prescription on the Amazon Clinic service.
Okay.
And I had a question about whether or not it was normal for my doctor for the guy, they prescribed me 2.5 milligrams of dutasteride and 10 milligrams of oral minoxidil. Like I already had concerns about finasteride, but dutasteride, is that normal or?
How much was he prescribing? 2.5?
Yes, 2.5 milligrams of dutasteride.
And 10 milligrams of oral minoxidil.
Yes.
Yeah, and sorry, when did he prescribe this? After the spironolactone?
No, it wasn't the same doctor.
Okay.
This is a different one. I got a consultation on the Amazon Clinic website on the hair loss consultation, and the doctor simply prescribed me 2.5 milligrams of dutasteride and 10 milligrams of oral minoxidil, and I had to ask, like, is this do I have the green light to go with this, or is this something to be concerned about?
Well, it seems a bit excessive, to be honest with you. I don't know how the whole Amazon thing works. I assume it's just like with some of these other online pharmacies where you do a quick video chat or maybe not even that, just through photos, and then they'll send you a prescription. But especially the minoxidil, I mean, that's 10 milligrams was prescribed by some doctors I know personally 10 years ago, but they've bumped that down to no more than 5 milligrams. Sometimes I think the standard is about 2.5, not I think, but that's a standard that most doctors are prescribing is 2.5 milligrams. Some will do 5 milligrams. It's rare to see 10 milligrams. I don't know of anyone that does that now. Quite odd, actually. So let me ask you this. Where, you don't have to say the city, but what state do you live in?
This is in Georgia, but the whole Amazon Clinic thing, I don't know how it works either, but I mean, don't they grab doctors from all over the nation?
As far as I know, yeah. Like I said, I don't know how that works exactly, but I would contact an IAHRS member doctor. Go to IAHRS.org, and I would find a doctor that you can speak to that's as local can be to you. Okay. If you're in Georgia, there's Dr. Ken Anderson. There's Dr. Dan Daniel, and both of them are in the Atlanta area, Alpharetta, to be specific. Not too far north just right there at the North Carolina-South Carolina border in Charlotte, there is Dr. Jerry Cooley. Full disclosure, I work with him. Talk to them. See what they say. Tell them that you called before you called the Bald Truth, and that you've spoken to me again, Joe Tillman, and you had some questions about dosages and what you should do. And maybe even have a consultation. In fact, I'd have a consultation. When you go and have an in-person consultation, you can get a lot more of a comprehensive evaluation of your situation than you'll ever get from telemedicine. That's guaranteed. So if you want a good handle on things, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, what had irked me was, they actually, when they do the consultations, they actually show the name of some of these doctors, and I wouldn't want to put anyone on blast, no name dropping, but I mean, I searched their LinkedIn, and these guys seem pretty smart. They had a bachelor's in Emory University, and they got a master in Augusta. Augusta University, like they're like right here in Georgia. So I figured.
Understandable. But understand this: the letters behind a doctor's name is irrelevant when it comes to experience. Okay, so they can have all, you know, they can have 17 letters behind their name, and it means that they were very effective at getting through academia to get those letters. But it doesn't mean that they have the experience to actually understand in their industry or in their specialty how things actually work with regards to regular patient care. This is in any specialty, you know, not just hair restoration. It can be in anything, dentistry. It can be in sports medicine, whatever. Things that work in on the academic level aren't necessarily ideal on the patient level. All right, so I'm, 10 milligrams of minoxidil, that's high. That's higher than, I don't know doctors that prescribe 10 milligrams. There may be some that I know, but I'm not aware of it. But I do know that they're in the extreme minority as far as what most doctors in the hair restoration space will prescribe. And that is 5 milligrams, usually 2.5. Now, as far as safety, 10 milligrams is probably okay because, when they were prescribing it for blood pressure as Lonatan years ago, it was much higher than 10, 30, 40, 50 milligrams for actual blood pressure treatment. So 10 is pretty low, but it's not the norm for hair loss. 2.5 to 5 milligrams is the norm. So it's up to you. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm just, but based on people doctors I speak with on a regular basis, I actually talked to one doctor about why he doesn't prescribe 10 milligrams anymore. And he said it's not necessary. And it does reduce, it's plenty effective at 2.5 to 5 mil. And the side effects that people are concerned about with oral minoxidil are greatly reduced. So it makes sense. And I personally would never take 10 mil. I don't take anything. But if I were to take oral minoxidil, I'd probably even have a hard time considering 5 milligrams for myself. I'd take 2.5.
I understand. I'll consider that. But I also have another question, and kind of like the interlude from, walking away from that first doctor and, kind of like an interlude. I actually visited my local hair transplant office, sub-metro Atlanta in the middle of that. And I had to ask if it was good advice that one of the consultants actually told me, it's too late. Not it's too late. That's, get off the meds and go get a hair transplant. Because just for reference, I'm sort of like a Norwood green, shiny crown. Was that advice sound, or is it too late? Is it really too late?
You're a Norwood 3?
Yes.
But you have crown loss as well?
Yes.
So it's a Norwood 3V. And he's saying it's too late for you on medication. Stop taking medication and just get a hair transplant.
Yes.
The consultant is either an idiot or he's intentionally trying to lock you into multiple surgeries. It's one of the two. Medication should not be given up on, even as a Norwood 7, because that donor hair can still get worse. Who was this?
Laura Rockefort. That was the name of the consultant. What they had told me was,
what was the clinic?
It was a local one. I walked in. It was sub-metro Atlanta around that. I'll try looking for it, but what they had told me was that the hair transplant would be permanent and that the meds, they had a place, but it wasn't really feasible for me.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. Anyone that tells you that hair loss medication should be stopped and instead get a hair transplant does not have your best interests in mind. Not even remotely. Obviously extenuating circumstances, like if you got some sort of, like, I can't imagine what they would be. But no, they didn't have your best interest at heart. They're trying to potentially entice you with the more immediacy of surgery, where you'd have surgery now and see your results in 6 months, as opposed to continuing down this path of chasing the regrowth of a few hairs that make no difference with medication over the course of several years. Like, I don't know what they told you, but that's one approach that some people could take to try and entice you into actually sitting in the chair. Do they do something like that?
What was the question?
Did they tell you? Did they try to compare the immediacy of getting real results with a hair transplant in 6 months versus the endless chasing of a few hairs with medication over several years?
No, they simply said it was permanent. It wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, same difference.
No,
yeah. It's a lie, basically. Yeah. I don't like hearing about this, and whoever told you this was just trying to make a sale. That's all there is to it. Straight up misleading you and trying to make a sale. Period.
It was an interlude. But it kept me thinking. I just had to verify. Like I said, I'm kind of like a noob in the whole field.
No. These are very legitimate questions, and I think that they highlight the need for real information. Frankly, like this that you're getting from me or from when you call the show when Spencer's here. It's this is the kind of thing that needs pushback. You're new with your research, and you are ripe for the picking by a lot of clinics, or I'll say people like you, because it's easy to tell people like you what you want to hear and make it sound like it makes sense. And unless you know better, it does make sense. But medication is the foundation for every hair transplant surgery. Every one. Granted, like side effects, can't take it, and all that good stuff, yes. And surgery can still be performed in those situations, albeit with a much more reserved game plan for the long term. But anyone that tells you that that medication isn't worthwhile as a professional, and you should just get a hair transplant, it's not a big deal, it's permanent. It is a big deal, and it's not always permanent, especially if you're not taking medication, because the donor area is not completely, the follicles in the donor area is not completely immune to the effects of dihydrotestosterone, DHT, which is what causes male pattern hair loss. So while it's likely it would last a very long time, and it may be permanent, I don't know what your genetic susceptibility to DHT is in the donor area, but it's not guaranteed. For a lot of people, it's not. For a lot of people, it's not permanent. A lot of people have, in the grand scheme of things, in the big picture, a lot of people have their transplants thin over time because of continued hair loss. That does affect that donor hair that's been transplanted. So medication is the baseline. That's the foundation for a transplant to build upon. Because if your hair is still falling out, then your transplant is just one of many that you'll need to fill in those gaps as the loss continues.
Yes, and what had like I said, that was the whole that occurred the whole interlude. Even I had to call, put a tinfoil hat and go, hey. But what had happened was, in kind of like at the end of the consultation day, they made the off mention of the laser cap. Hey, laser therapy. Who knows? It was kind of so.
Was it $3,000 for the laser cap?
No, it wasn't anything specific. Unlike my first doctor, it was an off mention of, hey, laser therapy is always here for you. Here, the caps do wonders.
Okay, yeah, they can make a difference. I used to be a big critic, but I've realized over time that they can be beneficial in some cases. They can induce some hair growth, but they are by no means as effective consistently across the board and aggressively as medication. It just doesn't. It's not there. I'm not against it. Like, I think that it's good to use those as an adjunct to medication. Or I won't say good to use, but it's okay to use those as an adjunct to medication and or an adjunct to surgery. If that's something that someone wants to do, it doesn't hurt you. And I have seen where it has improved things mildly. So that part, there's some validity to that, but not nearly as much as they were pushing on you. Medication is the first line of defense. No two ways about it. No two ways about it. So, they're trying to get you in the chair. They're trying to make some sort of sale, either in the chair or sell you a laser cap, which was probably going to run you about $3,000. And there's about a 150% profit margin on that, by the way. So, if you want a laser cap, go to, I think you can go to Amazon now and get them for a couple $100.
Well, thanks, Joe. I just had to clear those two things up. But I'll be brief. But shout out to the other caller struggling with the meds and fighting his own battle with hair loss and other issues. Seriously though, I appreciate you giving him a platform. Cope with his issues. If you're watching this, caller, keep at it. The audience is rooting for you as well.
I appreciate that.
Otherwise, thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day, okay? Great evening.
Good day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good day.
All right. Well, it was a great show as far as I'm concerned. Fantastic calls. Thank you, everyone that called in. I'd love to take more calls, but it's 5:30. I got a lot of work to do. I'm going to unplug the phones now so no one else can call. But thank you, everyone that did try to get through but didn't make it. I think I'll do at least one show next week. Next Friday, Spencer will be back, and we'll be doing The Bald Truth as usual, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. I think I'll try to do at least one more, maybe two more episodes of the main event next week. Let me know what you think down in the comments if you'd like to see that happen. And don't forget to hit that like button. I appreciate all the support. Got a big burst of likes after I asked you before, so I'm going to ask again. Hit the like button. I really appreciate that. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you on the other side. Take care. Bye-bye. Oop. There we go.